computer. Hey, everybody, I think we're live.
Yay, we're back. We're rested.
Hey, Vance, thanks for joining us.
Hey guys, how you doing today?
Good, good, good. So for our audience, today we have our first Jazzfest food vendor, and probably one of the most famous ones, Vance Vaucresson, a Vaucresson Sausage. Again, thanks for joining us. Take us back to the beginning of Vaucresson Sausage. How and when did it start?
Vaucresson Sausage is I'm a third generation sausage maker. My grandfather started the business. We go back to around 1899, about 120 years. We were in the 7th Ward making sausage, butchering and providing a retail outlet for those services to be provided to the community. My grandfather was a butcher by trade, and he actually started in a stall at the St. Bernard Market, which a lot of people now know is the Circle Food Store. And then once the Circle Food Store was privatized, because St. Bernard Market was one of the many public markets in the city of New Orleans. Some of the ones that are still in retail that are around that you may recognize would be St. Roch Market. The St. Roch Market is now private. It was a public market. I knew that there was a couple of other public markets that were littered around the city, and the St. Bernard Market was one. Once it was privatized, my grandfather moved to his own place on the corner of St. Bernard Avenue and North Johnson Street, which some people from New Orleans might know for a long time as the Corpus Christi Credit Union. It was a community credit union. Our market was there before they built that. And then after that, he moved to a point right in the next block, which used to be Bellfield's Pharmacy. It was owned by his cousin. He bought the building, lived upstairs, had his meat market upstairs. And then our last place was corner of St. Bernard and Roman, where we're building now, our new retail to be finished by the end of the year, where we will have not only a deli, which is from the history of the meat markets my grandfather and my dad had, but also a small cafe, which it lends to our history. My dad, in the second generation, was more entrepreneurial, and so he actually partnered with another gentleman, a guy named Larry Borenstein, who started Preservation Hall. And back around the early mid-'60s, they started, they had a restaurant on Bourbon Street at 624 Bourbon, which is now the Pat O'Brien's Annex Bar, but back then it was Vaucresson's Cafe Creole. And from what I'm trying to understand, it was the first building or business owned by a person of color post-Reconstruction on Bourbon Street.
Nice, nice, nice. So maybe you said this and I missed it. When does the cafe open?
The cafe will be open. We plan the reconstruction of our historic building where our factory was will be finished. The contractors are on schedule mid-September. And then from September to the end of the year, we want to get in there, get the equipment in, get all the furnishings and the decorations and finish all the organization and get everything, kind of do a soft opening just to make sure we're operating correctly, and then eventually do a grand, hopefully November, but no later than the end of the year.
So people who are traveling to New Orleans for Mardi Gras and for Jazzfest next year, they'll be able to check that out.
Well, maybe this year. We might be able to see a few people this year. We're definitely going to bring activity even on the site before we open, if we have to, outside, or do whatever we can. If there's people in town, we'll bring them to the facility. We'll have product, packaged product, and possibly some cooked things for them before they leave to come and get a little taste of something that'll make their mouth feel happy or their tummy say yummy.
Love that.
Vance, when did you take over the company, and what was that like for you?
After I graduated, I came back to work with my dad. I had never had the opportunity to work consistently with him growing up. So I came back, and in '92, I joined the company. Worked with him for about 7 years. He died, he died in 98. And I took over the next day. He died on a Sunday. I took over on that Monday. And then I was doing that until Katrina hit. And then Katrina really set us back in a lot of ways. And it's small business. I learned crisis management after everything came about, making sure you have all the I's dotted and the T's crossed when it comes to dealing with what we deal with every year, which is hurricane season. This one was a unique one with it being classified as a flood. So for us, a lot of the insurance that we had covering our building and our business, unfortunately had flood exclusions. And then the National Flood Insurance Program, we didn't have enough coverage. So we slowly been trying to get back. And now we're now actually rebuilding that building and should be finished by the end of the year.
Now, you were the longest serving vendor at the Jazzfest, and when did that affiliation start?
Actually, the concept for the Jazzfest was brainstormed at the restaurant I alluded to earlier, the cafe that we had in partnership with Larry Bornstein. George Wein, the founder of New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, was good friends with George Wein. George Wein was good friends with Larry Bornstein, excuse me. And he came to the restaurant and was eating, and it was post Newport News Jazz Fest. So at this table, sitting down talking about Newport News was George Wein, Larry Bornstein, my dad, Sonny Vaucresson, Alan Jaffe, who was at the time a Michigan tuba player who Larry had hired to manage Preservation Hall for him. And they were at the table and was just kind of talking about Newport News. And as the story was related to me by my dad, that, they just actually was like, well, how come we don't have a jazz festival here? How come you haven't done anything like this for the birthplace? I mean, this is New Orleans and jazz. A lot of people, if they know George Wein, he's a proficient piano player, jazz player, had combos and everything. So brainstorming session, talked about how it would be, what you could do. You'd have the musicians, you gotta have food. And that's when they said, Sonny, why don't you come? You could come and do your po' boys or some other things. And you gotta have crafts and it's gotta be this, that, and the other. So from that meeting, George left and pretty much came up with the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival at some point. I know he at one point, when in his putting everything together, went and hired a young record store manager by the name of Quint Davis to come and help him to manage the festival. And literally the first festival, when we were in it, my dad would make the po' boys at the restaurant, wrap them in foil, put them in a box, and then ship them over to the tent where my mom was. And my mom I think she had just had me, like maybe 6 months old. So she had me in a bassinet out there, minding the booth. So I tell people I've been to every Jazz Fest because I was there as a baby, but she was selling the sandwiches that way. And it was really just, the fact that meeting, at brainstorming session, and then our affiliation with George at the time, and then putting this together and including us, we just have always, from my recollection, we have just always been doing the Jazz Fest. I grew up out there. I remember when they only had a few booths around the flagpole. That was where all the food booths were located. And I used to run around. The festival was my playground. In the beginning, my folks would be setting up and I would just be running around the fest, playing in the stables, in the duck pond, on the track. Just there's a lot of history from when I was younger that I've seen over the years in this fledgling festival that literally, we lost money or broke even many years before it actually caught on and became what it is today.
So in a second, I want to ask you about your musical talents, which is how you and I met about 11 years ago. But let's talk about your being honored at Jazzfest this year on the first Sunday.
Yeah, it froze up a second. What'd you say?
You are being honored. Vaucresson Sausage is being honored at Jazzfest first Sunday, I think at 2 p.m. at the, I can't remember the exact stage you're going to be at. How's that feel? Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
There you go. You're back now.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
No
I don't know.
worries, it
I don't know.
happens.
I don't know if you heard any of that question or not. You're being honored at Jazz Fest this year, first weekend. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I was contacted by a lovely lady who is on the commission for the Louisiana Folklife Commission, and she nominated me some time back, and then I was, um, given this award or acknowledged by the Louisiana Folklife Commission um, for those that have, carried on, folk traditions of Louisiana culture and heritage, and just very, very humbled, thankful. A lot of this that I carry with the Jazz Fest was kind of laid already by my mom and dad, and their participation and what they did, and then by picking up the mantle and carrying it forward, I'm humbled to be the representative for this particular award, but I also acknowledge that the award is kind of an in global award for the entire family and its contributions to allow us to be even noticed enough to get this. So I'm just thankful, and we'll continue to. One of the things I try to do is I find over the years a lot of the visitors that come here just really have a misunderstanding of what the culture of New Orleans is, what Creole culture is, and how it relates to Cajun, and just some of the other, as you could say, myths that they tend to believe about this city and its people. So I'm always one that have tried to learn as much as I can that is backed up by historical data and research, and be able to be one of those voices that can re-educate as to what New Orleans, its beautiful culture of Creole, and how so many people have contributed to it to make New Orleans what it is today.
I'm thinking actually we might want to have you on again at some point so we can talk about that very stuff. I think that's great. Um, I want to talk right now about your musical talents. I mean, I knew you, I didn't know you at all until 2010. And then I met you at Piety Studios when you were coming in and singing on Paul Sanchez's project Nine Lives. And I've never told you this, but you sing my favorite song on that album, Just Respect. I think it's such a great song. Talk about the musical side of you.
Well, you have music's a part of both sides of my family. On my dad's side, um, uh, it's interesting. A lot of my grandfather was a huge opera fan. He didn't sing, but he loved opera. He listened to it all the time because a lot of people don't realize the history of opera in New Orleans. Being that New Orleans really had the first opera house in the United States, and that this area produced a lot of composers and musicians that wrote and performed within the genre of opera. And but at the time, probably just didn't get enough opportunity, and you find a lot of them that moved to Europe to show their works and have them performed and things of that sort. But also on my mom and on my dad's side, we're related to the famous Boutte family of singers. Lillian Boutte is my cousin. John Boutte is my cousin. Trisha Boutte, some know as a Sister T. She's performs jazz in Norway. And there's so many talented ones on that side. My brother was an opera singer by trade.
Wow.
He performed and toured Europe and different countries singing, but he died at a relatively young age, 33. And so we've just had music in our family. And then my mother's side, her father was a jazz banjo player who actually recorded and performed with the Sam Morgan Jazz Band. You can find their recordings on YouTube. They were one of those groups that performed at that time, and him playing the banjo was a very unique instrument, is definitely a part of our culture and history. So being that my brother was an opera singer and all this other musical talent around me on the periphery, you know, how can you not find what you're going to do, whether you're going to play or sing? So I just went ahead and started singing. Sang in high school, and then went to college and took classical voice, following behind my brother. Studied. I wasn't a music major. I just kind of studied voice, and then came back and you know, I would do studio work for people. I would jump on the stages with the Bouttes and sing background with them, or I always sang in church as a cantor. So it's just a part of my life, and I still to this day I'm a minister of music at my church and sing every Saturday and Sunday at service. And actually just got off the stage with John at DBA on Thursday night. He invited me to come. We sang and did a couple songs and did some background. Just thankful and fortunate to find that thing a lot of people don't always find, which is your passion, and be able to participate in it in your life. And so I look to do it as long as the Lord allows me to have a voice.
Love it. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm going to take us back to the Jazzfest for just a few minutes. So what does a Jazzfest vendor eat at Jazzfest? What are your favorites? What are a few of your favorite dishes?
You know, well, one thing I have to say about Jazzfest is, and I do a lot of other festivals, and a lot of great people that do a lot of great food. The Jazzfest has grown to be so competitive. It's got a waiting list for people that want to be vendors. But the vendors that are there have proven themselves to put out some great food under some really, you know, not so great conditions. I mean, you know, I think a lot of other festivals around the world in the country have taken the model of what Jazzfest has been able to do, where they have given us some type of working infrastructure to put out a great deal of food in a wholesome environment, in a way where it is done very safely, and and then we can put out a lot of food in a short period of time. And a lot of those vendors who have that experience and that can put out great food like that have been there for years. I personally, you know, I eat whatever I might feel at the time. I mean, usually I'm working, and I might just drink a lot of fluids all day. But when I do, I usually take a walk behind the back of the booth, and I know everybody at the fest, all the booth vendors, either one and two, and some of the ones that are kind of scattered around the festival. I'll go and visit. And, you know, the beautiful thing, the vendors always want to give you food. Oh man, you want a sandwich, you want a plate, you want something to eat. And usually with that, you know, we have a wonderful little barter system for those that wish to participate. You know, they'll say, well, look, bring me a hot sausage back when you go get your plate. And it's a beautiful family out there. And so I'll eat, you know, not to endorse anybody, but I try everything out there. I've eaten, the Baquet family has some great food out there, Trout Baquet. There's a gentleman from Baton Rouge who's got some meaty white beans and ribs, and then the Brown family, who was there for years, used to do a chicken sandwich. Now Squeals has it, and they do a good job. I mean, I've got I walk up and down. They've got the soft shell crab. They've got the Préjons. I love their duck and quail gumbo. I mean, it's just it's really about what you feel like at the day, you know. Because the thing is, at the end of the day, what happens is, if depending on how the day went, people have food left. So they're just scooping up food and bringing them by, saying, man, you want some home? So I will bring home boxes of plates and sandwiches and goodies. Next to me is Gallagher's, and he's got a fish with a crab cake and something else. He scoops, I usually come home with like 5 of those plates. And then I've got Miss Douglas. She does the alligator pies. I'll have a whole half pan of alligator pies. And you got to realize a lot of this time it can be a lot. So I'll have a lot of food at the end of the day. So my friends and family know when I come home to pass by my house because they know we've got all this food. They say, what did you bring home today? So it's really just we as vendors, we could get very fat and we could get very lazy if we sit out there and eat all day. But a lot of us are out there doing what we do. So a lot of times we won't eat a lot, but we'll eat maybe a little bit of here, a little bit of that. But the camaraderie and the family atmosphere between the vendors, trust me, no one goes home empty-handed.
So because you're working so much during Jazzfest, do you get a chance to see any musical acts?
Very little. Actually, the time I do get away is to actually go up on stage and sing. I'll do, in the past, John will have a set at the Jazz Tent, and I'll go and back him up, give him some background. I know when Lillian performed, I would do the same. And then we used to do at the Gospel Tent, we used to do this thing called Butte Family Praise, where all the Buttes would go up and sing gospel music, and I would join them with doing that. And then fortunate enough to get on stage with Paul when he was promoting Nine Lives and the Rolling Road Show, and just kind of joining that. And a couple of other people that I know, musicians, if I'm around or I'm sitting on the periphery, if I know them, they'll say, hey man, come on up a stage and sing. It's just a wonderful thing. But if there's a particular act that I just really am a fan of, I may try to sneak away. But people got to realize, everybody says, man, so-and-so, did you go see this? Did you go see that? I'm out there running a business. I'm out there trying to make money and take advantage of that opportunity that was given to me. So, I've had actually a lot of these performers come and get food. So I've met them personally. But sometimes I just get to miss some of those great performances. But, just thankful to have the opportunity to be out there and be on a very close proximity with some. I know this year they're supposed to have the Rolling Stones. I probably won't see them, but if for some chance Mick comes to the booth, I'll make sure to say, you make a grown man cry.
I love it. That might be a good way to end this interview.
That was great.
Vance, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. This is so wonderful. I can't wait to send all my friends and family to try all of your goods at Jazzfest this year.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. To have an opportunity to reach out to this type of forum to talk about not only what we do, but also to give our people opportunity to think about, those things that really are truly what New Orleans is about, which is food, music, culture, and the people. And once you really decide as whether you're a visitor, whether you're a transplant, or a local that was just kind of really just didn't understand the holistic background of this city and its beautiful different people, that you take a second look at it and really respect its history and what it's about. And I guarantee you will come away with a knowledge of a unique place like nowhere else in the world. That is the reason why so many people, once they come, they don't want to leave. They want to stay and they want to be a part of its greatness. So I thank you for this opportunity to speak with you.
You are a great ambassador for a wonderful city. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in about 2.5 months or so.
In about 2.5 months, yes. Come on by, come and see us at the tent. And if you don't know where we are, just listen intently, and you should hear me barking in the background saying, come get it. It's so good. It's where the rubber meets the road and the road meets the rubber. It'll do for you what you want it to do. It'll make your mouth feel happy and your tummy say yummy. Don't walk away. It'll make you want to stay. Have a little bite because you know you'll be all right.
Perfect. Thank you.